Imagine being told that saving lives does not always begin with bigger machines or louder alarms, but sometimes with noticing what is already quietly there. We often think progress must look dramatic. Big buildings. Complex devices. Long lines. But many real breakthroughs start small and almost invisible. This idea matters when we talk about illness. Especially illnesses that frighten people enough to avoid looking at them. Breast cancer is one of those illnesses. Most people know the numbers in a vague way. They know it is common. They know it is dangerous. But numbers alone do not change behavior. What really shapes action is how close the risk feels and how heavy the process feels. Screening saves lives because it finds disease early. That part is clear. What is less clear is why so many people still avoid screening even when they know it matters. The surface explanation is easy. Lack of time. Fear. Discomfort. Embarrassment. Pain. Worry about results. These reasons sound personal, but they are not random. They form a pattern. The deeper issue is not ignorance. Many people understand screening is important. The deeper issue is friction. Every step that feels invasive. Every moment of discomfort. Every reminder of vulnerability. These small frictions add up until the brain quietly decides to delay. Not forever. Just until later. And later often never comes. Health systems usually respond by pushing harder. More reminders. More campaigns. More pressure. But pressure does not remove friction. Sometimes it increases it. When screening requires special equipment. Trained staff. Travel. Waiting lists. Exposure of the body. Pain. Cultural discomfort. Fear of radiation. All of this turns a preventive act into an emotional burden. Even when the science works, the human experience can fail. That is the first insight. Early detection saves lives, but only if people can actually access it without feeling threatened or ashamed or overwhelmed. The second insight sits underneath this. We assume that medical information must come from medical-looking actions. A scan. A needle. A machine. A hospital room. We rarely ask whether the body might already be telling its story in quieter ways. Ways that do not feel like medicine at all. We treat the body as if it only speaks when we force it to speak. But the body is always communicating. Through breath. Through movement. Through sleep. Through sweat. Sweat is usually ignored. It is seen as waste. Something to wipe away. Something embarrassing. Something without meaning. But sweat carries what the body produces and releases. It carries traces of what happens inside. And this leads to a surprising reframing. A fingerprint is not just a pattern of lines used for identity. It is a map of tiny signals. Each touch leaves behind a record of molecules. Those molecules come from inside the body. From what it uses. From what it processes. From what it tries to remove. This changes how we see information. Information does not always need to be extracted forcefully. Sometimes it is already being shared without pain. The hidden assumption we carry is that better detection always requires more invasion. More exposure. More intensity. But what if better detection sometimes requires less? Less pain. Less fear. Less disruption. When science looks at familiar things with new eyes, it can unlock unexpected paths. Not by adding complexity but by reinterpreting simplicity. A fingertip swipe feels ordinary. Almost meaningless. But when examined differently, it becomes a rich source of signals. This reveals a structural pattern that appears again and again in innovation. Breakthroughs often come from crossing boundaries. Not staying inside one field. A tool designed for one purpose finds a new life somewhere else. A method used for identity becomes a method for health. A technique built for investigation becomes a tool for care. The structure is always the same. First, someone notices something others overlook. Then they ask a question that sounds strange. Then they face resistance because the idea does not fit existing categories. It feels wrong simply because it feels unfamiliar. Systems are slow to trust ideas that do not match their shape, especially when they threaten to reduce cost or change roles or bypass established paths. That resistance is not evil. It is human. People protect what they know. But progress depends on those willing to stay with an idea long enough to prove it quietly. This matters for daily life beyond medicine. We often think solutions must be heavy. That helping others must be hard. That improvement must hurt. So we delay. We wait for the perfect moment. The perfect resources. The perfect system. But sometimes the question is not how do we do more, but how do we remove what makes people step back. Think about how many good actions you avoid not because you do not care but because the process feels uncomfortable. Health. Learning. Conversations. Asking for help. The barrier is rarely the value. It is the experience. When experiences become lighter, people move forward naturally. When they become heavy, people withdraw even if they agree in theory. A future where detection is simple and private and painless changes not only statistics but emotions. It reduces fear before it appears. It respects dignity. It meets people where they are instead of asking them to overcome themselves first. This is not only a technical shift. It is a philosophical one. It says care should adapt to humans, not the other way around. As we move forward, we might ask ourselves where else we assume complexity is necessary. Where else we believe discomfort is unavoidable. And where else quiet signals are waiting to be noticed if we slow down enough to look at them. If progress can come from a fingertip, what other answers might already be resting in places we overlook every day? What invisible information might your own daily habits already be carrying if someone learned how to listen to them?